Hello, everybody. This is Grayson Harris. Welcome back to our nonprofit spotlight series. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Beth Hassett. She is the CEO of Weave, and they have recently embraced a new vision for their organization: when everyone acts, violence ends. Beth, thank you so much for taking some time to join today and share a little bit more about the work that you're doing. How is everything going at the org?
Things are good. We're in the middle of Domestic Violence Action Month, is what we call it. Awareness is great, but action is better. And busy just engaging with the community and challenging people to do something to join us in ending domestic violence.
Incredible. And tell me, what does that look like as y'all are embracing this new vision? What is kind of y'all's ask?
There are so many ways people can act. They can get educated, really understand what domestic violence might look like in their own lives or in the lives of their friends, coworkers, family. They can share our social media posts. They can volunteer. They can donate money, always a good thing for us nonprofits. And we have thrift stores they can shop in. So we're just asking people, use this as a platform for the rest of the year to, think about what you can do to make your community safer and better for victims and survivors of violence.
I love that mission. And tell me a little bit more about the work directly that you were doing within Weave. I know y'all have been supporting survivors for over 40 years. What is the role of Weave in this picture?
We have intervention services. So if somebody finds themselves a victim of domestic or sexual violence, we offer housing and legal assistance and counseling and a 24/7 support line. So that's a big part of who we are. But we also are going upstream and really looking at prevention. How do we stop this problem before it starts? How do we get to youth who are just forming their opinions about what a healthy
Right.
relationship looks like and talk to them about how they can grow up in a healthier place than a lot of folks, maybe even their parents and what they've seen modeled in their own homes.
And in terms of going upstream, I'm sure that's incredibly important in terms of really kind of preventing the violence from happening in the first place. I would love if you could tell me a little bit more about your background within the organization. I know that you've been, the CEO of the organization. I think coming up on 20 plus years. I'd love to understand a little bit more about how it's changed over time and that journey.
Yeah, I started in 1995 doing fundraising. I was the director of development, and I had that role for 6 years. I opened our first thrift store, which has become a really good source of revenue, but also a way to give free
Right.
things to our clients and to engage with the community. Our budget back then was $1.8 million, and now we're an $11 million organization providing more services, better services, and again, engaging the community and really trying to prevent this violence from starting.
How has that been as there's this focus on kind of going upstream? What are these conversations looking like, and what are the methods that y'all are putting in place in terms of helping prevent the cycle from ever happening?
Getting to kids is really important, and it's rough. It's very hands-on work to be in schools, and we can't be everywhere. So it looks like talking to kids as young as 5 about what their boundaries look like, what consent looks like, body autonomy, all
Yeah.
of that, building up to actual talking about sexual and domestic violence prevention. But it also is engaging the community, businesses who have people working for them that might be experiencing domestic violence. And frankly, in the state of California, have a lot of rights in the workplace. So making sure that employers are following the law. Also working with people who cut hair, wax, do facials, who have a very intimate relationship with their clients and hear and see things and are perfect ambassadors for us to talk to people about how they can get help if they're experiencing violence. And going into bars and nightclubs and working with the staff there who see bad behavior going on in their establishments and teaching them how they can be active bystanders and actually intervene before violence gets out of hand.
The community aspect of that seems really important. I would love if you could expand upon how those conversations come about in the first place. Is there a lot of outreach that's kind of coming upon from your organization and your team, or are these kind of you know third places? Are they kind of reaching out to you, looking to get educated on it, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. We're out there in the community. We have educators and advocates that are embedded throughout the community, and we work with our local city, their nightlife department, and so they host some of these trainings for businesses in the community. it takes everybody out there talking about it. I have a big mouth, so, I'm out there talking about it all the time. And people are looking for that education. Sometimes it's a matter of somebody who didn't know that they knew somebody who was experiencing domestic violence suddenly realizes, "Oh my gosh, my best friend, my sister-in-law, my neighbor, somebody at my church," and then they reach out proactively and want to get educated and want to get involved.
That's incredible. Something that comes to mind when you mention that aspect of it is, kind of mission creep. How are you and I know that you're local to, California and the Sacramento region. How have y'all navigated the need in terms of especially as y'all look for broadening the education around this space in terms of meeting the needs of your local community, but then also making a kind of nationwide impact as well?
Yeah, I think we're pretty, intentional about what we feel can be replicated elsewhere or what has a more national theme. For instance, we have one of the only federal grants working with blind and low vision survivors of
Yeah.
violence, and so we're doing groundbreaking work locally in reaching those survivors, but sharing it nationally with other organizations. That's a good example. Our Safe Night Out program where we're in the bars, I mean, that's something that could be replicated anywhere. It's just a matter of getting in touch with your bars. So, we definitely have a global look at what we're doing prevention wise and messaging wise and are very active statewide, but our actual services for a survivor are very localized. And frankly, every community in the country has some version of us at least providing those core services.
Thank you for that answer. That was definitely helps paint a picture in terms of the philosophy that I'll have in terms of providing those services. As you look to provide those services, I know it costs money, and this year, especially federal funding, is at a kind of high level of uncertainty. How has navigating that uncertainty and creating a diversified set of funding then within your organization?
We've really leaned into our values. We took a hard look at, what are our values? We weren't ever doing performative DEI work, for instance. We've always served all the people, anyone who comes to us. We don't screen people out based on gender or nationality or anything. So, really leaning into those values and communicating them clearly and often with our current supporters and future supporters has been critical. Being real honest about, look, if the money stops, what would we stop doing? Because I don't believe in crisis communication and fundraising if it's not really a crisis. And people don't want to give their money to somebody who's not going to be here tomorrow. So, we've been real thoughtful about, all right, what would we scale back? What would we do less of if we had less money? And just having open, non ask communication with our supporters. I think that's
Right.
really critical. Making sure they're getting information about the impact that their money's having on the work that we are doing so that when they're thoughtfully considering a gift, maybe farther along in the year, we're top of mind and they recognize what their money is doing and how it's impacting a community or a group of people that they care about.
Well, there's a lot to unpack from that answer. The part that I stands out to me was that value aspect and aligning the values that you have within the organization and the values of the donor. In terms of that communication, does it feel like refreshing? Is that what kind of how it feels to the donor, or what has the response been like to being a value forward kind of organization?
I think a lot of people are really worried about the nonprofits that they care about. And so having a dialogue about, look, these are our values. This is what we care about. These are the people we serve. We're going to continue doing that. And you being a partner of ours in the community and in our success is part of our success. And I think people have been worried and there's, how is Weave? How are you guys doing? Are you going to still be here tomorrow? And how can we help? Is definitely the attitude we're getting. Plus people are feeling really disempowered right now
Right.
and like the world is out of their control and something they can control is supporting a mission that they care about right here in their community.
And as our nonprofit audience looks to replicate, that idea, the philosophy of that being, value driven. What are some advice? What are some lessons that you've learned in terms of organizations trying to replicate that success?
I think sharpen up your values. I mean, we actually went through an exercise at the beginning of this calendar year with our staff where we said, are these still our values?
Yeah.
Or is this what resonates with us? And we actually swapped a couple of them out because they felt rusty.
Yeah.
So do that exercise with your staff. Really articulate why those are your values, and how you're different than a company over there or a nonprofit over there. Everybody's different. Also, make sure your mission statement is crisp and really articulates what you do and is easy to remember. I think rethinking all of your fundraising. Are you talking to your donors enough? Are you giving enough love to those people who give every single month?
Yeah.
Are you putting on a rubber chicken dinner that's lost its appeal? And is that really the best use of your time and money? So I think right now is the time to look at everything, clean house, and just, sharpen up what you're doing.
A follow-up question on that is, so now you've realigned, you got your mission statement written now, you got your values re-identified, and now you're looking to do the work. How are you maintaining those values for you and your team and living through those values every single day in the work that y'all are?
I think things like being survivor centered is one of our values. Really centering that person that we're here working for. Especially, we've got a lot of staff members who would rather work remote, did work remotely during the pandemic, and we're a people organization and we're here for the survivor. So of course our people who work for us matter and we care about them, but centering that our mission and the people that we serve is one of the most important ways that we live into our values. And then just testing, are we being responsive? Are we being empathetic and caring? Just constantly noticing how you're showing up every day for the people that you serve, I think is critical.
Thank you for that answer. And as we look to October and it's Sexual Violence Awareness Month, can you tell me a little bit more about what is going on in your organization as we look to both this month and to the future?
Yeah, we are out in the community talking to anybody who will listen to us about domestic violence and the impact that it has, sharing statistics. It's one of the deadliest calls that law enforcement goes on, really impressing upon people why it matters to care about domestic violence and just doing a lot of education and a lot of sharing of how people can get involved, take action, and keep the people they care about safe.
And how would our audience get involved, both in their local community and with your organization?
We have a great website that's got a lot of information that, transcends the Sacramento region, weaveinc.org. Go on there, learn about the types of violence that exist. We have a newsletter if you're interested in getting regular communication. And find out who the organization is in your community that serves victims of domestic violence. There's somebody there, and just Google it, if nothing else, and ask them how you can help because it takes all of us to address this insidious problem we have in our community.
Mm.
It affects the families and the individuals that are experiencing it, and it radiates out and affects all of us employers, law enforcement, the entire community. And it's a public health problem that is going to take a big solution.
Well, Beth, thank you for coming on and sharing more about the incredible work that you're doing for your community through Weave and the refocus in terms of that mission and identifying your values and sticking to them.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.